them where you in the same place you got them from. That would be helpful. So 2 pieces of paper and a handful of colors, like a color from the main families of colors, a red, a yellow, a green, a blue, and then varieties around that. Probably you'll be in shape. I'm going to just grab this. Thank you. Hi. Yes. Nice. We gotta have the mic on. Yeah. Yeah. Nice to see you in person. It's kind of an imperfect science because you don't really know what colors you're going to need ahead of time. So just take a handful of stuff. And if you find that you need a different color, you can always get up and grab one while we're doing the drawing. And some of you brought your own art supplies, which is great. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the practice, explain it, and then I'll guide you in the process. And then we can share at the end. So greetings, everybody. My name is Chandra Easton. This is my usual Tuesday evening drop-in class. And every once in a while, usually like once a quarter, we'll do Feeding Your Demons. So this is like an anomaly. Usually we're doing, Dharma talk, moving through some kind of Buddhist text and meditating and doing some movement. You guys are always welcome to drop in anytime. And then Alembic will share with you, okay, next week we're going to do Feeding Your Demons. It's a really cool practice. I've been doing it for many years personally and with groups, training people in it and doing work with folks one-on-one. So it can be a practice that you learn and then do on your own. Like you can take yourself through the practice. Don't need a therapist, don't need a guide. If you feel comfortable to do it, you can do it on your own. And up here at the end of class, I'd be happy to have you come up and get a printout of the script of a solo work, like how to take yourself through the 5 steps. So you could take that. And if you like the practice and want to do it at home, then you can do it at home. And what you have on your sheet, on your cushion, is it's called the tracking form for Feeding Your Demons. But what it is like a journaling prompt. And so I'll give you time to journal after we do the practice, not during, but after. And you can use that tracking form as a template to then journal in your own journal if you brought a journal, or you can write on it. And I have more up here. So you could take one and take it home too. So, I'm going to tell you about feeding your demons, and then you'll get to do it. And often the learning is in the doing. So, I'll try to be concise so that you can drop right in. But it's also good to know the map, like the frame, like what is the view? What are we doing here? Where are we going? What's the purpose? I mean, feeding your demons can kind of sound a little daunting. Like, I'm going to go do that in a room full of people I don't know. What are we doing? But what's beautiful about the practice is that you are in your own space, in your own experience throughout the whole thing. Your eyes are going to be closed or slightly hooded if that's more comfortable for you. But normally we do the entire 5 steps of feeding your demons with the eyes closed. So you're in your own experience. And I'll guide you through the whole thing. So you don't have to remember anything I'm about to tell you because you'll be guided in it. But the background of feeding your demons comes from very old Buddhist teachings that trace all the way back to the Heart Sutra, the Prajnaparamita Sutras, these Mahayana sutras. Mahayana means universal or great vehicle, and it's uh, an era of Buddhism in India around the turn of the millennium where the emphasis on compassion became prominent. Bodhicitta, you might be familiar. How many people are familiar with this idea of bodhicitta? Yeah, it's this compassionate wish to awaken, to heal, for the benefit, sure, of ourselves, but also for all beings. So it becomes in that way the universal vehicle, the Mahayana. Maha means great, Yana means a vehicle. Of course, the earlier teachings of Buddhism also taught compassion. It was there. But this idea of bodhicitta really comes to the forefront around the turn of the millennia with the arising of these famous sutras called the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And so that's important for a couple reasons. One is that, compassion is, of course, a beautiful thing. And if we can feel it, it's a wonderful thing. Self compassion, not always so easy, but very important. And then if we can grow that lotus within our hearts of self compassion, we're more likely to be able to feel compassion and empathy for others, right? So that's pretty logical and obvious. These teachings went up to Tibet around the 8th century CE. The 700s, 800s is when Buddhism really started to arrive up in the land of snows, up in Tibet, up and over the Himalayas. And with the arriving of Buddhism in Tibet, you had the sacred texts. So Indians would travel and bring the sutras to Tibet. Of course, they went to China and other parts of East Asia and Southeast Asia as well. Tibetans would come, learn how to translate Sanskrit, collect these beautiful teachings and sutras. Sutra means thread, literally, but it's the name for texts. And take the sutras back up to Tibet and translate them into Tibetan. And thus, kind of Buddhism became rooted in Tibet. Around the 1000s, so I think it's 1055, Buddhism was pretty well established, excuse me, in Tibet, but it was going through some growing pains, and there were some kings who weren't really wanting Buddhism in Tibet. The traditional shamanic tradition of Bön was very strong, and it, was kind of vying for influence and power. There's a bit of that happening. But for the most part, there were many monasteries and libraries, and Buddhism had taken root. Around 1055, a girl was born named Machig Labdrön. Machig Labdrön. And she was born in sort of southwest Tibet. And her birth is said to have come with miraculous signs, like she had an ah symbol, a vowel sound that's very sacred in Buddhism, kind of like a birthmark on her third eye. Her mother had had dreams during the conception and then right before the birth that a great Dakini would be born. Dakini is the name for the enlightened female principle in general, but also for women, for teachers, for goddesses, for Buddhas. Wisdom, Dakini, is equivalent to a Buddha. And so Machig's mother had a dream that a great Dakini would be born. So this girl grew up and showed a proclivity to the Dharma. And so her parents did what most Tibetan families do when you know that your child is bright and they need an education. Of course, show interest in the Dharma, you send them to the monastery because they didn't have schools. The school was in the monastery. So Machi Glabdran went to the local monastery in the Dranang Valley, which is where she was from, very famous valley with many great teachers and monasteries. And she went to actually a Nyingma, a Dzogchen monastery. Some of you may know these terms, and if you don't, it's not that big of a deal. It's the oldest lineage of Tibet. And the Nyingma, the elders tradition, holds the teachings of Dzogchen, the great perfection. Beautiful teachings. And so she studied with her first Lama there, learned to read and write, was very smart, and became a speed reader. She could read so fast, especially through these sutras, that as she got older, she became in high demand by families, different Tibetans living in the area who where the custom is to have a monk or a nun come and read the sacred texts, the sutras, aloud over and over again uh, for days on end as a way to bless, the animals, the farm, the crops, the home, the children. And so she was a speed reader. So they liked her because she could read a lot of text really fast and they wouldn't have to feed her as long as the slower readers. That's what the biography says. And so she had she has an incredible life story. The reason I'm telling you about Machi Glabdran is because it was in reading the Prajnaparamita sutras, like the Heart Sutra or these Perfection of Wisdom sutras that talk about emptiness and compassion, right? The two wings of the bird to enlightenment. Emptiness is wisdom, seeing into the empty, interdependent nature of all phenomena. That is accessing the true nature of your own mind when you have that unmediated direct experience of emptiness. So the sutras talk about that. And then they also talk about the importance of love and compassion, that there is no enlightenment without compassion. And in fact, when you see into the empty, interdependent nature of everything, compassion naturally arises because of the interdependence. You realize that my liberation is tied up in your liberation, that we're not separate entities. It's beautiful. So she's reading these texts again and again and again, memorizing them. And it's when she's reading a section of the Prajnaparamita Sutra talking about demons, where she has this epiphany. Because in the sutra, the Buddha is saying demons are not some external entities out there, goblins, ghouls, vampires who want to come and drink your blood or kill you like in the movies. They are projections of your own mind. They are your fear, your anger, all of the ways that we suffer, that everything arises from the mind. And therefore, we need to meditate, heal the mind, trace back, and do the work, right? And see into the empty, interdependent nature of everything so we don't reify it. Don't reify the demons as some real things out there that are going to possess us or hurt us. but we see that there's a co-creation there. My perception is tied up in what I'm perceiving. And so she had this epiphany. Ah, because Tibetan culture, like a lot of cultures, was very superstitious. You know, demons, they have hundreds of different names, terms for different kinds of demons. Ghouls, goblins, vampires. It comes also from India, had that too. And the Tibetans really imported a lot of their religious ideas from India, Mother India. So she had this epiphany that demons aren't external things out there. They are a projection of your own mind, and something just lit up in her. And now she's, in her early 20s, and she's starting to mature and understand the teachings on a deeper level. And this led to her leaving the monastery, saying, I need to leave the comforts of my own home and enter the life of a wandering yogi. She met some yogins who were passing by. She joined the circus, basically. And with them, they would practice in haunted places and lonely grottos and mountain passes and cemeteries, charnel grounds, and challenge the fear of death, the fear of so-called demons, right? And so she developed out of those wanderings and practices and community her own teaching called Chöd, Chöd, or Chö sometimes without the D. And this practice helps us meet and feed rather than fight the so-called demons, the fear, the anger, the projections, the anxiety, the depression, all of these things, these experiences that we have that can block our experience of freedom, that can make us feel like we're not fully bringing to fruition our potential and our spirit and our vision. And so this is a beautiful practice. You could learn it today. It's practiced widely in all the different lineages of Tibetan Buddhism. It's done with a double-sided frame, like a double-sided frame drum that you hold in your hand and you play by moving the wrist. And they're strings with two balls on the end, and they hit the drum like that. And so there are many different rhythms you would learn and sing with the liturgy of the prayers of the Chöd. So the right hand holds the drum and the left hand holds the bell. And so you play the rhythm with the bell and the drum while you're visualizing, chanting, praying for healing. It's a healing ritual, actually, the Chöd. It heals oneself, but it heals the people who you're practicing for. It can also heal the land, animals, and so on. So she developed this teaching, and that had never been done. She was challenged by Tibetans. She was challenged by Indian pundits who came up and debated her. And the story goes that she won the debate. She won debates, and then those people became her students. So this alchemical tantric practice of Chöd, where we face, we meet, we go to the places that scare us. And then we transmute the fear that we find there so that we can see how much fear is actually created by the mind. You really see it, when you go to the charnel ground and the wind blows and something brushes against. I did an all-nighter. Sometimes you do like an all-night practice. You go out on the land, like at Taramandala, the Buddhist retreat center that I study at and teach at. We practice Chöd there. And one of the practices is called Dulshuk. Dulshuk means to go into scary places and then heal and vanquish that fear that comes up. Of course, you wouldn't like really go put yourself in like a war zone. You do it within reason. And so one time I went and I was practicing the Chöd at night, and the wind came and the branch, like a leaf from the branch of the tree I was sitting under, brushed my shoulder, and I had hot, tingling fear goes through. I thought there was some goblin or bear coming to eat me, But the teaching is to just keep going, unless you really know that there's a bear, But if you sense it's probably just your own projection, you keep going, doing the chanting. Da, da, da. And I looked behind me. I had a little headlamp on, reading my liturgy. I looked and there was nothing there. So then I got to sit. I got to sit with the adrenaline and the thoughts. And throughout the night, okay, I'll tell you one more experience. The practice is to do the Chöd, which takes about 45 minutes. You do the sadhana, which means spiritual practice, this whole beautiful arc of the practice. And then when you're done, you put down your bell and your drum and you lie down like shavasana, like a corpse on the earth, and gaze at the sky. There were stars, stargazing, and you pretend you're dead. You're just like, let everything go. Shavasana, the corpse pose. Rest for a while, and then when you're ready, you get up and you have a little rock. You throw a rock, and wherever the rock lands, you go, sit down, and start the practice again. So you're sort of like wandering around the hillsides, the mountains. So this is one way. It's not like they always did it this way, but when you're doing dulshuk, this is one way to do it. So at a certain point in the night, after throwing the rock, going to a few places, I was probably like 2 a.m. I was kind of getting my groove on. I throw the rock, it lands, I go over there, I sit down, I do the practice. And the core of the practice is where you say Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong. And that's like an offering mantra. Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong. And you're offering, that's when you're visualizing offering your body as nectar to all the demons, all the beings of the 6 realms, the hell realms, the hungry ghost realms, the animal realm, the human realm, the demigod realm, and the God realm. Inviting them all to the feast. And you've transmuted your body that we cherish and hold so tightly. You transmute it into nectar and you feed to complete satisfaction while you're singing Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong. And while I'm doing this, I look down. I still have my headlamp on. I look down, and in front of me on the earth are hundreds of little shining, beady eyes looking at me. And I was like, I got so scared. What is that? But then I kept practicing, right? Because you're not supposed to stop. And they were still, they weren't moving. And I practiced. And then at the end, I finished, I put my stuff down. I lie down for just a little second because I'm terrified of these things. And then I get up and I lean forward, I crawl a little bit. And there are dozens of tarantulas on the ground, just watching. Oh my God. Now, I grew up in Southern California where we have big black tarantulas. Have you guys seen those? Sometimes they'd walk across the road. I lived in the mountains and they'd walk across the road. These were little brown ones. And so I had this moment of like, first feeling terror and kind of grossed out by it. Like, whoa. And then they seemed so peaceful and calm. They were chilling. They weren't moving. They weren't coming to get me. And I had this shift of perspective of like, oh, we are cohabitating. And nature is not a terrifying place. It can be, but for the most part, it's a friendly place. And all these projections are just phantoms, mirages, echoes. It's projections of my own mind. So it's a really good way to learn that. And that's when I really understood how much fear was created by the mind. Okay. They weren't behind me. They were, I think maybe before I laid down, I looked back and made sure they weren't behind me, but they were just there. So what I learned the next day, I told Lama Tsultrim, my teacher, that. And she said, oh, yes, sometimes we see tarantulas here at Taramandala. It's southwest Colorado. Sometimes we see them here at this time of year. It was July. because it's their migration time. I didn't even know that tarantulas migrated. So, maybe they're my medicine animal. Anyway, I don't know. Okay. So with feeding your demons, what we're doing is we're feeding our tarantulas and our bears and our phantoms and our feeding your demons grew out of this Chöd ritual. Lama Tsultrim, my teacher, I just mentioned her, founder of Tara Mandala, author of the book Feeding Your Demons, taught and practiced Chöd for many years. And she saw that the gestalt of the Chöd wasn't really landing with Westerners in a way that it could, because it's sung in a foreign language, it's ritualized, it's kind of maybe feeling a little arcane or something, or medieval. And so she, with her therapeutic training and dialoguing with other colleagues who were psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on, she extracted the main gestalt, which means the main kind of thrust, healing aspect of the Chöd, which is this moment where you're feeding instead of fighting the fear, the anxiety, the illness, the sadness, anything. Instead of fighting and resisting it, you're turning towards it and you're offering nectar to it until it's completely satisfied. So with the feeding your demons practice, you have the choice of, and I will walk you through this. We'll start in a moment. You'll have a choice to either imagine that you dissolve your body into nectar and feed the demon the nectar in that way. That's more traditional. That's kind of more edgy and it's a little more tantric. It's the Chöd way. But then there's also the way, if that doesn't feel comfortable, if you tend to dissociate, Lama Tsultrim says, don't dissolve your body and just imagine that you are creating an infinite supply of nectar from you, or it's raining down from the sky. I had it as a big hydraulic water hose like they mined with back in the day. Feeding your demons is not necessarily an active visualization where you're making something happen. Feeding your demons is more of an opening up the doorway to the subconscious. Carl Jung said that the subconscious communicates with us through imagery. So we're letting the imagery come up and take on a life of its own. Okay? So if you have an image that comes to you while I'm guiding you, where you think, no, that's not right. I was supposed to get a tarantula, and instead I got Minnie Mouse, Like if sometimes the editor comes in and says, this isn't the way it's supposed to be, or that image doesn't represent what I thought I was feeling. People will say that. Don't worry. First thought, best thought. Let it come up, trust it. It'll make sense later if it doesn't make sense in the moment. And then let it have a life of its own. That first image might transform, it might change. So trust yourself. Trust me. I will guide you through. I've done it a gazillion times before. And in a sense, let go of the editor or the critic. Sometimes the critic comes in and sort of co-opts the practice. So sometimes what I say to folks is, if you tend to have a big kind of your critical editor with your creative processes is heavy, if it's kind of lives with you a lot, you could actually take that as your demon, right? Because Maciej Latrin said that the demons are that which obstruct our experience of freedom. So that could be an emotion, it can be a thought, but it could also be like a physical ailment, chronic pain, illness. That could be also worked with the feeding your demons. So now take a moment to think about that for yourself. Maybe you came here tonight already knowing what you wanted to work with. Maybe you aren't so sure. So feel into, in your experience today, this week, this year, what has been blocking your experience of freedom in your life, holding you back, gnawing at you, draining your energy. And this question always comes up. Sometimes people say, can I take my ex-wife as the demon? She drains my energy. People out there aren't the demon. What we work with in this process is the way that ex-wife makes us feel, right? So if I'm feeling angry, then I work with the anger. The first step in feeding your demons is, where is it in my body? I'm feeling a tight knot in my heart and it's hot. Okay, good. Let's take that. And then we move with it through the 5 steps. So you can work with a challenging interpersonal dynamic, but it's not that person who is the demon. We can't control that person. We can work with what's happening in here. Okay? I feel like that's enough. Does that feel like enough? I think the experience will answer questions. Okay, good. So the way we do this is we have it's ideally you have an empty seat in front of you. Okay, and we're not a full house. Usually it's interesting. I've been gone for 3 weeks. I had pneumonia. Usually it's a full house and there's not a lot of room. But you guys have room to spread out. So that's nice. Yeah, you can kind of see how can you shift if you need to and have an empty seat in front of you. Or like you, for example, you could just take a pillow and put it in front of you. And that pillow, that zafu, could be your empty seat. And Hannah and the crew were wonderful. They set up the chairs. So you guys are already ready to go. You've got your empty chair right in front of you. There'll be a point where I ask you to shift positions and take that empty seat in front of you. Have it in a way where it's easy and you don't have to open your eyes to find it. And make sure it's empty. Don't put any paper on that because you're going to be sitting on it. You'll journal after. But have your art supplies within arm's reach, because at a certain point after you've seen the demon, I'll ask you to open your eyes and draw. Now, sometimes people think, oh God, I can't draw. Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, what you draw will not look anything like, or it will look a little bit like it. Whatever. We all have different capacities. The very act of making the art is therapeutic. So let the hand move and the colors and the shapes, but try to be loose when you're doing the art. And let the art and the image of the art take on a life of its own and teach you something about the imagery that's come to you. It's not about creating a masterpiece. It's about letting the art be an extension of the 5 steps of feeding your demons, therapeutic extension. Okay, let's stand up and stretch our legs and stretch your arms overhead to do whatever feels good. A little improv here to wake yourself up. If you need to walk around, shake out your knees, do whatever feels good to you. Fold forward, hang upside down, downward dog. Don't be shy. Just listen to your body. Good. And let's come together now and we'll do some breathing here. So I like to do this. This is something we do in the yoga practice that I used to teach a lot. So with an inhalation, just simply make sure you're not going to hit your neighbor. Inhale, raise your arms overhead. And then exhale, let the arms just flap. Again, inhale. And exhale. And again, inhale. Good. And now next move is raise the arms, make a fist, and then Drop them down on the ridge of the shoulders, like massaging. A little love tap. Do a couple more. Let the hands go super heavy. Good. Oops. Okay. And then now last move is inhale, cross the arms. You're going to exhale and baw like a sheep. And shake out your torso. Inhale. Shake the head, the chest, the lungs. Inhale. Last one. Let it all out. Good. All right. Now find your way back to your seat. Kevin, there's more zafus over here. Zabutan, you could just give me. Okay. You ready to start? The courageous souls. All right. So now once you're settled, just make sure that the art supplies are nearby, but not on the empty seat in front of you. Also, the folks who have drinks, put them a little bit off to the side or make sure they're closed and lie them on their sides so that especially when we shift places, it's very common for the water bottles to just ricochet through the room, and then that's not very relaxing. So, good. Now, when you're ready, close the eyes. Or keep them hooded with a little light coming through if that feels more comfortable for you. And you'll keep your eyes closed or slightly hooded throughout the whole process as much as possible until the end. And the preparation for the practice is to take 9 relaxation breaths. So breathing deeply into the abdomen, and then releasing with the out-breath. With your next 3 breaths, breathe into any physical tension you're holding in your body. Then hooking that tension with the breath, release it with the out-breath. And then for the second few breaths, breathe into any emotional tension you're holding. Notice where you're holding emotional tension in your body. And then hooking the tension with the breath, release it with the out-breath. And then for the last few breaths, breathe into any mental tension or worries you're holding. Notice where you're holding mental tension in your body. Then hooking that tension with the breath, release it with the out-breath. And now take a moment to generate a heartfelt motivation to practice for the benefit of yourself and all beings. And now take a few moments here to feel into which so-called demon you'd like to work with, remembering that this demon is anything that blocks your experience of freedom in your life. You may have a whole handful of them, but just choose one. And the advice is to work with the one that feels the most present or the most at the surface right now. And when you've landed on this challenge that you would like to work with tonight, the so-called demon, feel where it's held most strongly in your body. Where is the demon held in your body? And notice the qualities of this feeling in your body. What is its shape? What is the shape of this feeling in your body? And what is its color? What is its texture? Is it smooth, soft, jagged, sharp? And what is its temperature? Is it hot, cold, warm, neutral? And now intensify this feeling for just a moment. Maybe remembering when you felt it most strongly. And now allow this sensation, color, texture, and temperature to move out of your body and become personified in front of you as a being with limbs, a face, eyes, and so on. It can sometimes be helpful to make a gesture with your hands of moving this energy out of your body and letting it take form as a personified being in front of you. And then notice what you see. If an inanimate object appears, imagine what it would look like if it were personified as some kind of animate being, because we're going to dialogue with it. And then notice the following about the demon. What is its size? What is its color? What is the surface of its body like? What is its density? Is it dense, sort of like a normal body, or is it light or effervescent? What is its density? If it made sounds, what kind of sounds would it make? And does it have a gender? And what is the look in its eyes? What is its emotional state? What is its character like? And now notice something about it that you didn't see before. And so now, staying in your experience as much as possible as you reach for your art supplies and you start to draw. Draw whatever you saw. And again, the advice is to just let the hand move, let it be loose, take up the whole space of the paper. And remember, it may start off looking like what you saw, but let it take on a life of its own. Maybe it starts to also reveal new things to you. So again, trust yourself. Just let it flow. Maybe the imagery wasn't super clear, but you had a feeling. What would the feeling look like as you draw? And how do you feel as you're making the drawing? You can use the side of the pencil or the tip of the pencil, create different textures. Sometimes it's interesting to journal around it, like if you have some messages that came to you as you were seeing the demon or drawing the demon, you could write some words or describing what the texture was or but otherwise take up as much space as you can as you're drawing. Fill the whole paper. Maybe you noticed what kind of environment the demon was in. Maybe you could draw that. A couple more minutes. Okay, we'll start to wrap this portion up, knowing you can return to it later, filling in more if you like. Okay, so now what you're going to do is place the drawing on the empty seat in front of you. face up. So it's there on the empty seat. And then you're going to close your eyes. Drop back in. And see the demon in front of you once again in your mind's eye. Notice its size, color, the look in its eyes, and so on. And now you're going to ask this demon 3 questions. I will offer them to you. You can repeat after me out loud, one by one, not waiting for the answer, because at the end of the 3rd question, we'll switch positions and become the demon, answering as the demon. So repeating after me out loud, feeling connected with the demon as you ask, what do you want? What do you want? So say it out loud. What do you want? What do you really need? What do you really need? How will you feel when you get what you really need? How will you feel when you get what you really need? Good. So now, switching positions, becoming the demon, and take your drawing. As you shift onto that seat, you're going to put the drawing on your lap facing the seat opposite you. And take a moment now to settle into the demon's body. Feel free to take a gesture, an expression that helps you embody the energy of the demon. You could even stand up if the demon was standing up. Feel what it's like now to be in the demon's body. Don't hold back here. Really let yourself feel what that energy feels like. Noticing how it feels to be in the demon's body. And then notice how your normal self looks from the demon's point of view. Notice how your normal self looks from the demon's point of view. And then now you'll answer those questions, but this time silently. You'll be speaking as the demon, and I'll give you the beginning of the phrase, and internally you'll repeat that beginning and then complete in a full sentence, speaking as the demon. What I want is... What I really need is, this is the deeper need beneath the want. What I really need is... And when I get what I really need, I will feel. When I get what I really need, I will feel. And take note of the answer to this question. When I get what I really need, I will feel. What is that feeling? And then now slowly return to your original seat. You'll put that drawing back down on the empty cushion, just like it was before. Then settle back into your original seat, closing the eyes, staying in your experience, and taking a moment to settle back into your own body. And see the demon opposite you again, in your mind's eye. And now evoke within your own body the feeling or feelings that the demon would have when it got what it really needed. The answer to that third question. And allow this feeling to spread throughout your entire body. And then dissolve your body into nectar. Or if you're working with a demon that causes you to dissociate, or you prefer not to, then instead imagine you're generating an infinite amount of nectar from your body. In either case, the nectar has the quality of the feeling that the demon would have when it gets what it really needs. And notice the color of the nectar. And feed the demon this nectar and notice how the demon takes it in. An infinite supply of nectar flows to the demon. And feed the demon to complete satisfaction. Stay with the process. If a strong emotion wells up, just let it arise and have its arc like a wave crashing. Just stay with the process, feeding the nectar, an infinite supply flowing from you to the demon. And notice if the demon changes, shape shifts, feeding the nectar that has the quality of the feeling the demon would have when it gets what it really needs. And this can take some time, but because we're in a group, I'll guide now into the next step. So we feed to complete satisfaction. If the demon seems insatiable, then imagine what it would look like if it were completely satisfied. And notice what you see. Notice if there is a being present after the demon is completely satisfied. If there is a being present in the place of the demon, then ask this being if it is the ally. If there is no being there, or if it says, no, I'm not your ally, then invite an ally to appear before you now. And when you see the ally, notice the details of the ally. What is its size? What is its color? Even if it's a faint image, just stay with the feeling. You may have a feeling of something in front of you. It's okay if you don't see it clearly. Noticing its color, and then noticing the texture of its skin. What is the surface of its body like? And also, if an inanimate object appears, imagine what it would look like if it were personified as a being with face and eyes, limbs, and so on. What would it look like? If it made a sound, what would the sound be? Does it have a gender? What is its emotional state? What is the look in its eyes? What is its character like? Now notice something about the ally that you didn't see before. And then now, when you're ready, reach for your art supplies, take your second sheet of paper, and just like before, begin to draw the ally. And if you need other colors, there's still plenty of colors up here. If you feel like you want something else, you'll probably find it. Again, let the drawing be an extension of the therapeutic process. What was it feeling like when you saw the ally? Let that move through your hand. The image isn't so important. It's the feeling. A few more minutes. If you feel done, you can drop back into meditation or a journal. Another minute. Okay, so now wrapping it up, knowing you can always return at another later time. Okay, so now you're going to place the picture of the ally on the empty seat in front of you. And then drop back in, closing the eyes. Feeling your normal self rooted in your own body, and then seeing the ally in front of you once again. Its shape, its size, its color, the look in its eyes, its character. Feeling connected with the ally. Now you're going to ask the ally some questions, just like before, repeating after me out loud, one by one. How will you help me? How will you help me? How will you protect me? How will you protect me? What pledge or commitment do you make to me? And how can I access you? How can I access you? Now, switching positions, keeping the eyes closed as much as possible while you take that drawing of the ally. Take the seat of the ally and holding the picture on your lap, facing outward, facing your original seat. And take a moment to settle into the ally's body. Feel free to take a gesture, an expression, position that helps you embody the energy of the ally. And notice how it feels to be in the ally's body. And notice how your normal self looks from the ally's point of view. And really feeling what it's like to be in the ally's body. And now you'll answer those questions speaking as the ally, this time silently. I will help you by. I will protect you by. I pledge I will. And you can access me by. Is there anything else you'd like to say as the ally? And then when you're ready, slowly switch back to your original seat, eyes closed, taking that drawing and putting the ally drawing on the empty seat in front of you. And then closing the eyes once again. Settling into your own body, seeing, sensing, feeling the ally in front of you once again. See the ally in front of you and look into its eyes. And feel its energy pouring into your body, its protection, its power pouring into you. And as you feel the energy of the ally coming into your body, it spreads all the way down to the soles of your feet, to your fingertips, throughout your whole body. And now imagine that the ally dissolves into light. And notice the color of this light. And feel this light dissolving into you, integrating this luminosity into every cell of your body. And notice the feeling of the integrated energy of the ally in your body. And now you, with the integrated energy of the ally, dissolve and rest in awareness. Rest in the state that is present after the dissolution. Just rest. And now slowly begin to gradually come back into your body, recalling the feeling of the energy of the ally in your body. And now as you open your eyes, maintain the feeling of the energy of the ally in your body. And then you can do some journaling if you like. This sheet that you have on your cushion Just take maybe a few minutes to jot down any reflections that may have come to you. Like, what did the demons say? What did the allies say? That journaling sheet is just a guide, a prompt, but you can really do any kind of writing you wish now. If you prefer not to write, you can sit, meditate. About 1 more minute. You don't have to answer every question. Just touch on the important highlights. So let's start to find our way back together. So this is our time to connect and share and ask questions about the process that you just went through. It can be a really vibrant, fun time to share through the images that came to you, even maybe showing your drawing of your demon and then your ally. It can be funny. It can be like a jumping off place, and you don't have to say, oh, I was working with my alcoholic demon. You could just say, my demon was this big furry monster and I fed it honey. And, you can share. If you don't feel like sharing the actual issue, it's okay. But you can. Anyway, your turn to talk. Opening up the floor. And if you talk, just speak loudly. We do have a handheld mic around, but I don't know if it's worth digging it up. Or questions. Yeah. How many people are here for the first time doing Feeding Your Demons? A little over half. Yeah, how was it? Yeah. Powerful. Yeah. Good.
I've never drawn before as part of meditation.
Yeah.
And it's weird that I got exactly the colors I needed without thinking about it.
That's kind of rare.
I thought that made me chuckle. Wow, I was like, oh my God. It's like they already knew that that's what I needed.
Maybe. Yes. Could you hear her? She had the colors that she needed. It's like it just happened that she picked those colors. Yeah. Yes. And please say your name so I can learn your name.
My name is Milad.
Milad? Nice to meet you. Thank you.
And so with the demon, for me, it was so easy to find it as a sensation in my body.
Uh-huh.
So it was what I very badly dealt with in my Vipassana retreat end of last year. And it was a lot of like sensation in my face.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult for me to like grab it, and like the hand gesture helped me to like create some distance, and it was like so difficult to like separate it from myself. But it somehow worked. And, but with ally it was easier.
Interesting. Do you mind sharing the imagery that came to you?
So the drawings. Sure.
Great.
So this is the demon I tried to.
Yes. Do you mind holding you? That's his demon.
So it was like, I don't know, I have the Farsi word for the
Hmm.
demon, but I don't have the English word for it. It was like, let's say, some old lady.
Uh-huh. Like a hag?
Yeah.
Like, what is it in Farsi?
Ajuza.
Ajuza.
Yeah.
Ajuza. Like an old hag, like a wart on her nose or that kind of thing, the old hag?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The hands like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the ally. So
Oh. He looks like a water bird, like an egret or something.
yeah, like head
Beak.
down and like very
Uh,
long.
Mm.
What is it called?
Beak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and with very strong and like big body, very grounded body.
Nice.
So groundedness was like power.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got to embody the ally, you felt that?
I felt it in my stomach.
Yeah. Good. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Who else? Yes. And please share your name if you don't mind.
I'm Miriam.
Miriam. Mhm.
When I was tuning into the demon,
Yeah.
my posture started to be like this,
Yeah.
and then it like resolved. And then when I was the demon looking at myself, that came back, and I saw that shape.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how did it feel as the demon to see your original self taking that shape? What did that tell you?
I think seeing it, it looked like kind of weak.
Weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting moment, isn't it? Yeah. And then fast forward to the ally.
Yeah.
When you were the ally seeing your original self, do you remember what that was like?
Because when the ally was seeing me, it was more exalted.
Yeah.
It was very much in my spine. The difference.
Yeah. What was the quality of the nectar, the answer to the third question, the feeling the demon would have when it got what it really needed? Do you remember that? When we're the demon and we answer that third question, when I get what I really need, I will feel, and then there's the word. And then that's the feeling we feed the demon when we feed nectar later on.
I remember that there was a feeling of the demon feeling insatiable. And also self-indulgent. And then when it was actually kind of being full, it started to feel quiet. Yeah. And no longer kind of like grasping and consuming, like the consuming part was kind of shifted, and it was just more quiet.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing. Good. Who else? Yes, please.
I'm Pam.
Hi, Pam.
So when I was envisioning the demon and the ally, I had a pretty clear vision in my mind, and it was like pretty quick to get that down paper, but there was more time, and as I started to draw, it started to unfold like more things that I didn't realize. Which was very interesting. Like I saw a lot of fear that I wasn't recognizing before when I was embodying it.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how the drawing helped you sort of flush it out or go deeper into the feeling?
Yeah, I just kind of felt my mind just kind of. As I continued drawing, I felt more embodied. Actually, my mind started to just let go.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Pam. Anybody want to share? Share. I won't force you. Yes, please.
I'm Ernesto.
Ernesto.
For me, embodying the demon, I felt it in my face. So, and it was a resentment, and it was pissed, and it was mainly through words.
Mm.
Like, communicating phrases and like whispers. And I felt it a lot in my shoulders.
Yeah.
It was like talking through my ear.
Ah.
And looking back at me, the demon, I would pass it. Like, weak as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you remember how you looked to the ally?
Passive, but understanding.
Mm.
Wise.
Wise. Yeah, interesting. What was your ally?
It was this thing.
Aha. Nice. Do you mind showing the room? Being of light. And who was he? Like, is a guy? A male?
A guy or a woman, but
Yeah.
it told me to understand, and to access it told me to trust.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Could you guys hear in the back?
No.
He said, maybe you could say it again.
So what it told me was to understand, and how to access it was through trust.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. It's interesting how you felt the demon in the face, and it was through words and whispers, and the energy was there. How did it feel to let it leave the body, at least for the time being, and become personified as a demon in front of you?
Felt limited. It looked limited.
Ah, when you saw it in front of you.
And the other being was expansive. Filled with.
And the ally looked expansive. Yeah, interesting. Yes, yes. Good. That's beautiful. Really. Remember this as much as you can, whatever it takes to remind you. Sometimes I'll put little Post-its around, when I get some good messages like that, like trust or whatever. Sometimes it's nice to put your drawing up so that you can remember. Like if you have a shrine or an altar or a place in your house, bookshelf, you can put your drawing there and it will remind you, especially the ally. Sometimes the ally is kind of more uplifting to look at. Great. Yeah, we have about 4 more minutes. I've done a lot of art around this, and I used to teach Feeding Your Demons and art with a colleague, a friend, one of my best friends, Jennifer Burke, who was an incredible art teacher. So we'd go into her studio. She had this cool Victorian house in South Berkeley, and we'd do the Feeding Your Demons process in her living room. It was all artsy and cool. And then we'd go out into the backyard where her garage had been converted to an art studio, and she would guide us through taking it further with the art. So the imagery would just be the springboard. We kind of didn't even do what we did here. We'd do it a little bit. It would be like sketch time as a preparation for going out there, and she'd give us great art supplies. She was a educator for children, so she knew how to set you up for success with the supplies. You could just have rudimentary skills, but because of the cool combination of the pastels or the paint we did so many neat things. And so the reason why I wanted to tell you this is that there's a lot of different ways you can take this with art. You could also do it with writing. Sometimes we get clay and we sculpt the demon, and then we take that same clay and we transform that demon into the ally. And it really brings home the message in this practice, which is that the demon is like the distorted energy, the distorted sense of self, or some decision that was made, or some trauma that was experienced that kind of locked in and knotted up in our experience. So it's knotted up energy. But through the practice of dialoguing and attending to and then feeding instead of fighting it, that knotted up energy can loosen up and relax and then express its true self, which is energy, which is wisdom. So the delusion becomes the wisdom. It's alchemical. This is Tantra. We're working with the raw material. Nothing is inherently bad. I'm sure a lot of you do parts work. Maybe you've learned or have therapists who do the IFS and internal family systems, parts, very conducive to feeding your demons. In fact, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you should search on Facebook. My teacher, Lama Tsultrim, it's called Lama Live. It's her little podcast, Facebook show thing she does every once in a while. And she interviewed Dick Schwartz, who founded IFS. And they talked about each modality, IFS and feeding your demons, the similarities and differences. And then they took turns guiding each other through their processes. And they were so vulnerable and so honest. It was really powerful. Did anybody see that? You should check it out. I remember what both of them shared. I was thinking, wow, that was really honest. Okay, Dick, I hope your wife isn't pissed off at you after this, because you shared some pretty. It was interesting. It was beautiful, and it just was a testament to how effective their work is, because they're really wise humans and vulnerable and generous, and yeah. Okay, but the whole point that I wanted to get to is, after doing so much art with this process, I don't care what it looks like. It's not about what it looks like. In the early days, it was always like this little frustrating, because I could never get it to look the way it really looked. And then through time, I realized it's not even about that. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And just let the whole thing come through me, and do the art with the demon in my body, and like, what would it do? Same with the ally. I had this ally tonight. It was a pillar of light. But then when I looked into its eyes, it wound up being a joker with the hat with the little balls on the end. So it was about joy. It's about humor and uplifting through humor and raining down the joy. I never could have made that up. And so the drawing, it's not that great. It really doesn't even look like him, but it conveys the feeling. You see? So that's what I want you to take. If you like doing the art, you want to keep doing it. It's not about what it looks like. It doesn't matter. It's more of the feeling that you're having when you're making it. And if something cool comes out, great. Here's the demon. Again, it really didn't look like this, actually, but I just had fun being the demon as I was drawing. Even it was a belt of back pain that I took off, and it's like a belt that swirled, and there's a spine, So then the ally was the elevated spine, light and buoyant and comfortable. Please. So I have a spine injury, so all my demons are always my back pain. That's what I work with, and the emotional stuff that's tied up around that.
Could you just say something about the function of the ally?
Yes, it's your wisdom. It's your wisdom. You are your ally. In the end, we realize that, like, oh, wait, my integrated, or the self from IFS maybe perspective, is the ally. It's that the highest self. It's your true nature, having an avenue of freedom and opening to communicate through you and to you. Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's like the knotted up energy, then liberated as wisdom energy, and then it can speak. Trust. You are your ally. You are in your highest self, when you're really aligned with who you are and your power and your potency, you are your ally. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, take your drawings with you. Thank you, everybody. Let's take a moment to dedicate the merit of any positive juice that came out of this practice and sharing together for the benefit of all beings everywhere. Offer it up. And then thank you, thank you, thank you. So please put your stuff back where you got it as best as you can. Remembering that my art supplies are on the right. The alembic art supplies are on the left there. So please return. And we do this once a quarter. And then all of you are welcome to drop in on Tuesdays for the Dharma class too. You're welcome. I feel like I'm forgetting announcements and stuff like that, but I always feel that way. Hannah's not in the room. She can't nudge me. We are a volunteer-based community too. If you want to get involved in the Alembic community, volunteering is a really wonderful way to do that. So you can ask me or Hannah. Who has volunteered here before? Raise your hand. Yeah, so if you don't mind, you could talk to somebody if they want to ask you how that is. You can share. And enjoy tea in the lobby. Feel free to hang around and talk about your demons and your allies. Show and tell.